actually, I do not teach, karate, because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate man, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change, But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization.
A recently developed form of martial art is nationally accepted. No, Jiu-Jitsu is not thousands or even hundreds of years old. It started in around 1965 by a dedicated and intensified man called Bruce Lee. And martial art is something that no serious martial artist can ignore.
I have no fear of opponent in front of me, but I'm very self-sufficient, that they do not bother me. And that should I fight, should I do anything, I have made up my mind.
and just walking around and, you know, taking some shots of Bruce and John and Jim Kelly and Bob Wall. Of course, I'm sorry that I didn't have more. We just spliced 5 3-minute increments together from this palace. I noticed that these yellow flags were flapping in the wind. I asked our host, I said, what are all those yellow flags doing there? And he said to me, tomorrow, some movie company is going to start shooting here for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it's a film starring Bruce Lee. And I said, I can't believe that. I said, I'm the leading lady in that role, in that movie. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no. I said, and we're going to start shooting here tomorrow. But it was mysteriously wonderful and beautiful at the same time. I was fascinated. I love Hong Kong.
Who's this strange fellow on the bicycle here?
I think his name is Bruce Lee.
ABC, where I'll be seeing you in the Green Hornet. I am Bruce Lee, inviting you to join me every Friday night on most of these ABC. My last name is Lee, Bruce Lee. I was born in San Francisco in 1940.
He sure knows how to fight for his defense. In starting all his limbs are tense. Power glistens in his eyes, he strikes terror with his cries. He's the king of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Let him show what he can do. He's the king of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Let him show what he can do. He uses every human capability with a fingertip sensitivity. His Kung Fu courage set in motion. It's a massive dynamic explosion. Power fills his eyes as he strikes terror with his cries. He's the king of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Let him show what he can do. He's the king of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Let him show what he can do. People have carved him into what he is. Made him a powerhouse that fights to live. His iron muscles threaten destruction. There's no fighter that could touch him. The king is now revealed. He's a real man of steel. He's the king of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. King of Kung Fu. Let him show what he can do. He's the king every human capability. With a fingertip sensitivity. His kung fu courage set in motion. It's a massive dynamic explosion. Power fills his eyes as he strikes terror with his cries. He's a king of kung fu. King of kung fu. King of kung fu. The greatest fighter the world ever knew. Bruce Lee. Oh, you're the king of kung fu. The greatest fighter the world ever knew. Hey, hey, yeah. You're the king of kung fu. Oh, Bruce Lee. Yeah. The greatest fighter the world ever knew. Hey, yeah.
I am always amazed by the way that his energy has spread out over the world, and Brandon's too. But I think it's wonderful, and I hope to spread some of that energy myself.
I think that's the highest compliment I can pay him, is just to try and do what I do the best I can.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
There was a service in Hong Kong last week. 12,000 mourners, many of them weeping teenagers, jammed police barricades. Today's service was much quieter. The guests were admitted by invitation only, and there were only 200 of those sent out. A few fans without invitations showed up at the door, but they were quietly turned away. They waited in small clusters down the block. The invited guests were a mixture of Seattle's Chinese community and Hollywood. Both worlds were familiar to Lee. The leaders of the Hollywood contingent were Steve McQueen and James Coburn. Lee taught both men his special version of the martial arts at his school in Los Angeles.
Thank you. And peace be with you.
Within days, more than 20,000 mourners crowded the streets of Hong Kong to pay their respects to the fallen superstar. Following a memorial service, his body was taken to Seattle, where Bruce and his wife had met and fallen in love. Among those at the funeral were close friends James Coburn and Steve McQueen, who served as pallbearers. At the age of only 32, Bruce Lee had left behind a wife, 2 children, and an unrivaled legacy in the world of entertainment and martial arts. But ironically, it would be the films in which he didn't appear where his legend would live on.